Hi, everyone. Want to welcome you to our latest edition of Midlands Gives Training. We have a few people who are still entering. You're going to hear some of the dings that happen. That's just so we make sure we know who all's in the room before we let them in. But I want to value your time because we have just 1 hour on this beautiful morning to get things done. We have some really good nonprofit partners that I'm sure many of you know already who have some really good stories to share of some things that have gone well, things that haven't gone well, as a way to really share with you all so that you can learn from them and you can see this really as more of a collaborative event. So I want to start by really thanking our panelists and thanking you for those who are in the room to take your time to spend with us to help improve our Midlands Gives overall experience and Midlands Gives Day 2024. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists, and I will, hopefully you guys can see my screen. Is that true? Is everyone seeing our screen currently? Great. So we're going to introduce our panelists for you. Our first panelist is Rhonda Bush, and she is the founder and executive director of Girl Get Up Society. And Rhonda, I'll give you a little bit of opportunity to introduce yourself and your organization, but just wanted to let everybody know before we get through, I'll go back to Rhonda, but Chio Nunez, who's a good partner of ours. She's the philanthropy and partnership officer at the Hive Community Circle. Scott Nolkin with the executive director of Colatown Bike Collective, which is a fun, great organization that we love partnering with as well. And then Scott Vaughn, Director of Community Awareness for the Cooperative Ministry, which a lot of us certainly know is a longtime nonprofit here in the Midlands. So we'll circle back to Rhonda first. And while we're going through, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of their Midlands Gives data, which, hey, this is really transparent. I really want to thank them for being willing to share their data with you. So you can see sort of their process through Midlands Gives. So we're going to share a little bit of their data. They'll tell you a little bit about their organization, and then we'll go from there. So Rhonda, we'll start with you. Tell us briefly about Girl Get Up Society.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. I greatly appreciate it. Girl Get Up Society exists to ensure that girls and women throughout the state of South Carolina have access to mental health care. And we do that by paying for individual therapy, group therapy, and hosting a number of different mental health and wellness workshops and events for them. And so we've been able to participate in Midlands Gives for about 2 years now. And we've seen a lot of success and excited to share about the things that we've learned along the way.
So we have Girl Get Up's data here on the slide that you can see. And they have been with Midlands Gives for 2 years now. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, so you see there that they started in 2022 with Midlands Gives and have grown pretty substantially in that one year. Good growth there in both donors and in giving. But Girl Get Up Society is considered, they were originally a small nonprofit our first year and have done really good work and are now considered medium. But I need to say, medium for Midlands Gives still is pretty small. A lot of people, when you talk about the nonprofit world in general, it's still less than $400,000. So Girl Get Up is a smaller medium organization at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And one of the things I'll say is for us, just really learning the language that connects with your audience hearts helps drive those donations.
Yeah.
And we were able to learn that by way of the fundraising school grant that we received and partaked in. That helped us a lot. And then with our rebranding, they helped us get our verbiage tighten a little bit more too as well. And so another thing I would say too is utilizing videos. Like a lot of our donations come because we schedule out content. We pick a day out of the month and we record as many videos as we can within that one day. It involves changing shirts, changing clothes, all of those things so that they're not like the same image or the same look. And then we schedule those to go out recurrently throughout the day. And that helps a lot. And also sharing too about the prizes so people know as well.
Okay. So we're going to get into all that good stuff here after a while about how you did this. But I wanted everyone in the on the webinar to know that this data represents what was at the time a small organization, less than $50,000 budget is what they did with these two, and they are now considered medium, so they're continuing to grow. But both of these data points are from when they were a small organization, less than 50,000 in the middle. All right, we're now going to go on to our friends at the Hive Community Circle. Chio, would you like to share a little bit about your organization?
Of course. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with you all and to support organizations, with anything that I can do in terms of my experience. I'm the Philanthropy and Partnerships Officer at the High Community Circle. We are a statewide, culturally specific peer advocacy organization that supports survivors in South Carolina of sexual assault, intimate partner violence, and stalking. Although we serve all community, we our focus is more so for communities that have been historically underrepresented or underserved, which are women and girls of color and people experiencing poverty. So we offer peer support advocacy, one-on-one counseling, peer healing circles, economic justice, prevention, education, and outreach throughout the state. And we have been participating in Midlands Gives, I believe, since the beginning, since I think like 2016, probably. Yes. So it's the biggest for the organization, is the biggest fundraiser of the year.
Right, and you can see that sort of play out with some of your data. We have it dating back to 2019, and the size of the High Community Circle has grown as an organizational budget significantly over the years. They were a medium organization in 2021-22, which was less than $450,000, and has since grown. In 2023, they're now considered a large organization. They still are a large organization, but you see how sort of the data has shifted with that. And the interesting one about the Hive is their number of donors went down in 2023, but their total amount went up. And so we'll ask you a little bit about that later and what that strategy was and how that reflects some of the work they did. So thanks to you.
You're welcome.
We'll chat with Scott from Coletown Bike Collective now, which is one of our medium organizations. They were small up until 2021. And so, Scott, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Sure. Yeah, we've been with Midlands Gives since 2017. And what the Coletown Bike Collective does is we provide affordable and accessible transportation to pretty much anybody in the Midlands, Richland County, Lexington. In fact, we work with the VA a lot to do some statewide outreach, because the VA doesn't really have a program for transportation. And we get grants, we get funding, and we use money from Midlands Gives to buy bikes, locks, lights, whatever, so that people can get to work, and get to the doctor's office, get to the grocery store. So really what we're trying to do is make transportation accessible to anybody. We've also recently started to do a little bit more focused on getting people outdoors. So we have we've built a gear locker now, so that if people want to go bike packing with us throughout the year when we do our trips, we have bikes they can borrow, gear they can borrow, so that if they don't have the ton of money that it costs to get into doing adventure cycling, we have that available to folks as well.
Well, that's fun. Well, I didn't know that about that, so that's great to hear. So Scott's organization is considered medium, but it's still less than $200,000 annual budget. So it's not a huge organization, but still has some really good Midlands Gives outcomes. And they saw, as you can see, that COVID bump, which a lot of organizations did. And so we'll chat with Scott a little bit too, as well as to sort of how he's recovering from some of that with that big gifts during the COVID years. So thanks, Scott. And then last but not least, we're going to chat with another Scott from the cooperative ministry. So Scott, you want to tell us about your organization and sort of your Midlands Gives journey briefly? Uh-oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay. You probably know, Aaron, when we started. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's at least more than 10
From
years.
the beginning. Yep.
Yeah. And so the cooperative ministry has served the Midlands for 42 years. And our mission is about helping people, low income individuals, get on the road to being self-sufficient. And we have 8 unique services that stand alone, but that we can also use in tandem with one another to help people work towards self-sufficiency. And last year we served 13,710 individuals.
So the Cooperative Ministry is one of our big partners. They have a multi-million-dollar budget. One of our large partners has been around for many years in the Midlands. And you see that their Midlands Gives journey reflects that a little bit, right? And they're raising in the tens of thousands of dollars. And so Scott will talk a little bit about his journey and the process they've taken, because you can see they're continuing to increase donors. And their donors maybe leveled off a little bit, but their donation amount has gone up. So we'll chat with Scott about that strategy as well. All right, so I'm going to stop screen sharing now because I want to be able to see everyone's wonderful faces. And so what we're going to do now is I want to spend a little bit of time and have everyone get a chance to go around, the panelists to go around and tell us really a success story, at least one good tangible success story that you want to share with your peer nonprofits about something that went well when it came to your Midlands Gives campaign. And we'll go backwards. How about Scott Vaughn? We'll start there.
So I have to unmute again. Sorry. All right. So I think one thing that really worked for us was when we added video testimonials, because one of my strategies is to use every possible stream that is available, including direct mail, to communicate with our donors. And when we added so we have just every year added we've tried something different. And so adding the video testimonials probably about 4 years ago just really seemed to make an impact, because using those on social media, we could also tag organizations and our church partners. And so I think that has made a big impact.
Now, Scott, are these testimonials by donors, by clients? How did you sort of segment that out?
We have used mostly board members and volunteers. Our clients are reticent about being visible. I mean, they are low income folks, and they just don't want everybody in the world to know it. And so we deeply respect confidentiality. And so in print, I've used some print stories, but changed the names and even tweaked the circumstances so no one could figure out who it is. But in video, that gets trickier. So it's been mostly board members and volunteers.
And that's a great fundraising strategy as well, because you're tagging these specific donors, board members, volunteers, and they're going to then share it with their networks, right? And so your reach is even broader. So you reach out to more donors, potential donors that way, because people will share it that way. Very smart. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Scott Nolken, you would have a success story you'd like to share with the group?
Sure. And we saw it kind of on the graph that you showed earlier. That 2021 spike, we used a lot of the tools that we had learned over the years through Midlands Gives to launch our Save Our Shop campaign that year, which obviously you saw the huge spike in Midlands Gives that year, but we continued to raise funds for the next 3 months after that. And we're able to raise $50,000 during that period to purchase our building, which meant that we didn't have to worry about moving or rents changing or anything else. And it also lowered our cost, our actual overhead, which meant we were able to work smarter on the small budget that we have to continue to make the greatest impact. So the literally everything we learned since 2017, participating in Midlands Gives and really going at a big push at one time and kind of rolling out the same kind of marketing plan or strategies that we would leading up to a Midlands Gives, we continue to push that a little bit further, but it's the same techniques that we've learned in terms of following up and letting people know where we're at, just like we would throughout the day during Midlands Gives. We did that the same way through that whole campaign. And that was a tremendous success for us.
Right. So you also then had a named campaign as well that you used and carried it through into the
That's
Midlands.
right. That's right. So we had graphics designed for it. We had a landing page designed for it. So we really built everything so that there was a cohesive message, and we had one goal that we really focused on everything instead of it being kind of nebulous, which makes donors wonder what exactly are we doing or where are we going with this? We had one thing that we were just driving straight through.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. That's a good approach.
Absolutely.
All right, Chio, can you tell us a success story that you all have had at the Hive Community Circle?
Of course. So I think for us, what has changed is in terms of like the timeline of strategizing how we're gonna solicitate donations. So we definitely incorporate two things that the Midlands gives, platform lets, for organizations to use, which is the peer-to-peer pages, and also the early giving, the matches, sorry. So those two things have been part of like the strategy that has supported us to be able to get more donations, because we start securing money in terms of matching donations early this month. And so when we are, for instance, last year, which is the biggest year that we have had, we have already secured the goal that we had in May 1st on matching donations, because the matching donations has been a really good way to make people engage, but also like that idea of marketing tagline of like your dollar will multiply or like will double has been really successful for us. And it's also a way to be like, well, it's kind of a pledge in terms of like the donation, although they do give it to us. It builds up to the day, so it has been really successful for us. And then obviously we don't want to stop at the goal, right? So the peer-to-peer pages have been the component that has supported us in terms of like the day off, which is it's part of our strategy. We do a matrix, of course, and we like, okay, how many peer-to-peer pages do we need to get to this specific goal? So we asked 30 people to do a peer-to-peer page, and the goal is $1,000. And so that like goes itself is something that they are supporting us. They do in the day, so we are able to get donations that day because of their network, but also we also do our marketing material. So those two things have been important and very beneficial, and also like pivotal for the success that we have had.
Wonderful. I love that. So using matches, using your network already to send out to their network through the fundraiser pages. They used to be called peer-to-peer, just so y'all know. They're now called fundraiser pages. You can find them. We're actually doing a training specific to fundraiser pages this year, because we really believe that's a really effective strategy for all of you all to be tapping into, so you can go beyond just your network. You use your network to engage their network. And so thanks for mentioning that, Chio, and know, it's good to know that that's been working for y'all.
Yes, thank you.
All right, and then Rhonda, share with us a success story that you have had about a specific strategy.
Absolutely. So for us this past year, I believe that we saw the most growth from being very specific, kind of to what Scott mentioned earlier, allowing our audience to know exactly what they were donating towards. And so for us, we let them know like, hey, we're asking for $65 because that covers one session. And we also put the increments on our Midlands Gives page, where if you give more, this is how many sessions of therapy it will cover. And so it gives them that option to know that, hey, when I give, I'm giving towards these individual sessions. And then another thing that we did, we also do peer-to-peer fundraising as well, like Chio said. But last year we tried something different. All of us created like a short 25-30-second video, and we texted to everyone in our phone with the link to our Midlands Gives page. And that allowed them to get it directly to their phone, like, hey, and we love to use the language of letting them know that we're supporting our favorite nonprofit, and will they join us in doing that. So just learning the right language to send out was beneficial for us.
And Rhonda, did you provide specific language to each of your volunteers and board members for that text that goes out, or for that,
yes,
that 20-second PSA?
Yes, we do.
I figured so, but that's just an FYI to the group that you can make it super easy, but also help you stay on message, help your your volunteers stay on message. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
So
welcome.
we're going to now switch a little bit because there's a lot to be learned from things that did not go well. And if we could share some of that, be a little bit vulnerable, share some things one thing that didn't go well, what you learned from it is what we really want to know. If we could share that with the group. So we'll start with Scott Nolkin and actually go a different direction this time.
Thank you. Honestly, years and years ago, I sold cars, like years ago, early 2000s. And one of the things you have to do selling cars is cold calls, cold emails, and that kind of stuff. And I can assure you, it works just as poorly in Midlands Gives as it does selling cars. And we tried it the first couple of years because it was like, it was a shotgun sort of method, of trying to get donors. And it really it just doesn't work. And it probably even alienates some people. So what we've decided is we do use the lists from previous Midlands Gives. We use lists from people who want to participate or have reached out to us. And we focus on continuing communication throughout the year, not ever asking for any money, just kind of letting them know where we are, kind of letting them know what kind of fun stuff we're doing. It could be as simple as just a social media post or something like that. But that way, when we do get to the point where we ask, they've been able to follow us throughout the year and they know a little bit more about who we are and what we do. And it doesn't seem like we're just a money grab, and it's not some stranger calling them or emailing them or something like that. So we've learned to really build the way that we communicate and build a relationship with everybody before we ask for money versus that shotgun method.
Donor stewardship at its finest. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, your easiest donor are your current donors, right? Great. Chio, would you like to share with us a lesson learned that you all have experienced over the years?
Definitely one is the same that Scott just said. Donor engagement is such an important thing, and when it comes to fundraising, you gotta be talking to them through the year. But I think for us, specifically for Midlands Gives, we always, because it's the biggest fundraiser of the year, we always kind of pair it up with an event. And we will do some sort of really cool event in some cool venue or whatever. We will try to get, people to donate things and stuff, but we have realized that it's a lot of work because it's not just the event, it's also the online that we have to do. It helps in terms of communication, like social media communication, because we will do live videos, we will invite people over, perhaps people that haven't connect with the organization. But we realized that the time that we were putting to perhaps logistically organize an event, it could be put to other things that we could do just online. So for us, that has been something that we are not doing anymore. We're not doing an event in the day. We're just utilizing the social media and also, again, strategizing before the day to be able to engage people, instead of inviting them to a drop-in event. So that has been something that we have learned in terms of Midlands Gives is online. So let's just continue to do that.
I appreciate that. I don't think we've learned the lesson. We're going to do an in-person event again this year, but but yes, that makes total sense because there's time and money put into events. So that's a good lesson learned. All right, Scott Vaughn, would you like to share a lesson learned from the cooperative industry?
Sure. One of the things that we did, 2018 was my first Midlands Gives. And one of the things that I did early on was try to segment email to different audiences, like targeted email to volunteers and targeted email to different kinds of volunteers, because we have multiple volunteers serving in multiple places. And honestly, I just saw no real return on that investment of time. And so because I studied it for about 3 years, just saw no real investment on targeting email. And so I backed off that and just went to generic email promotion, and saw no drop off. So it saved me a lot of time and energy, and was able to put that into some other creative things.
Okay, thanks for that. All right. And Rhonda, would you like to share a lesson learned? I know y'all had a short amount of time to learn some lessons, but share a lesson learned from Midlands Gives.
Yes, I actually was going to say what Scott Vaughn said. For some reason, email marketing was the least effective for us, even with us starting early. I want to say we started like a month out, just making our email list aware of what Midlands Gives is, and just a weekly reminder that it was coming up. And our clicks to conversion was very low. I'm not sure if it was because they were just like, okay, what is this? But we're actually looking at this year, we're still going to try it again, but we're going to include some of the videos that we create to go into those emails and see if that helps, other than it just kind of being like a newsletter and then being able to read it. And on social media, one thing that I would say that we noticed that didn't work was just static graphics that just have words on them. Like people do usually they don't engage. They're just like, oh, okay, that's nice, and keep it going. They like to be able to engage. They love videos. They love to be along with go along with you on the journey. And so we're focusing this year on bringing them along with us as we're planning for this and preparing for it so that they can be a part of Midlands Gives leading up to the day.
Right. And Rhonda just answered a question that I was going to ask the group, so I won't ask her again. But the question I was going to ask is, how are you using data to inform your work? And if you notice, she just said she's looking at her click-through rate, right? What kinds of posts had engagement? What actually resulted in a gift? So that's a clear example of using what you have available for data. So I do want to ask both Chio and Scott Vaughn to weigh in a little bit about how does your organization use data to plan for this current year's Midlands Give strategy? And how have you used your donor list? Like, give us an idea of how you've used data. And we'll start with Chio.
Yeah, of course. So yes, of course, we use our data in many different ways. Definitely in terms of social media and just email marketing, we know through the year, and we do through the year, we do assessments around what people like. So it's not specifically around Midlands Gifts, but we understand that is very important when it comes to time for fundraising. So we do know in terms of social media and email what people like. So we try to always have a theme around Midlands Gives, that it's a little different. Of course, it's Midlands Gives, but we do have some sort of language and narrative around that. But in terms of the donors, which is the biggest strategy, like I was saying, that we do use the data around like former donors, or like donors from the last year or even the year before. And for us, it has been beneficial in terms of the ask to do segmented ask, because we see that, for instance, if someone donated $50 last year, perhaps this year they will donate 100. And that is actually one strategy that we did last year. And that's why as you can see, we had less donors in terms of unique individual donations, but the amount of donations was bigger, because we looked into how much people were donating, and the ask was doubled. So, and it's something that, of course, again, it's not like we just talked to them last May and then we talked to them again on April. Is kind of like an engagement thing that we are doing through the year, but knowing that this is going to be the time that we're asked for people to give. So the data has helped us in that way to like strategize the ask and strategize, well, if this person gives this amount, perhaps this person will give double this year, and it has been successful for us. Of course, it's a lot of work because it's not a mass email that we send, right? It's a very personal kind of thing where I make a call, and I talk to them, and I tell them like, you know, we have Midlands Gifts again. You know, thank you so much for the donation last year. This year, this is our goal. And we wanted to know, you know, if you, I mean, I don't know if this is what I say, but I wanted to know, you know, we'll like double your donation this year just because our goal is bigger. And one thing that has helped, of course, is that we always succeed our goal. So people get excited and be like, of course, like for sure, like we want you to succeed and exceed the goal. So that has been good for us in terms of data. And let me think about other things. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing. Of course, sometimes because of the data that we have in terms of contacts, we are able to, for instance, if someone gives more than $1,000 on Midlands Gifts and it's like a first donation, there is something there that is like, oh, this person is like really engaged with the mission. So after Midlands Gifts, there's again some sort of engagement around like a gift or like a call or like send them a specific communication throughout the year. And then this, for instance, for last year, people that gave more than $1,000 and was like a first time of $1,000, we invited them to be a fundraising page. So it's one of those things where I think it's called, it has a name in the fundraising world when you're like, you know, what's the increasing level of the donor? I can't remember the name, but I know it's like a name in the fundraising world. But you try to empower the donor to be like in different levels to start giving more and more and be more engaged with your organization. So that's what we do. Like they increase the ladder of donations. And so that has been really, really beneficial for us just to be able to see those numbers and see the engagement and all that. So
I love to hear that when people take their specific data and set very specific goals, not just we want to raise more money, but a very specific way on how we want to do that. And it really targets your limited time, let's be real honest, and thinking through how specifically we're going to reach that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And then Scott Bond, you want to share a little bit about how you all are using data to plan, you know, your current year's Midlands Gives initiative?
Yeah, I use data to look at trends in giving. And then I use those trends in giving. That's how we kind of we use our trends to our goal, our big fundraising goal. And then we also, just like Rhonda or Chio, one of you said it, that we use data as to drive our thank you process. You know, everybody gets a thank you, obviously, but then those big donors, we try to thank them in special, you know, ways like handwritten thank you notes and whatnot. But I will tell you, you know, the success of an organization's success related to Midlands Gives really is year-round pounding of your database. If you don't have a year-round communication strategy that is using all available means to communicate, if you just suddenly wake up your database for Midlands Gives, it's going to be hard to have. You can have good success. It's going to be hard to have great success because you are competing against 500 other nonprofits for giving on one day. And so, it is really, so my Midlands Gives promotion is, if you can imagine, I'm really seriously communicating with our database throughout the year and then ramping up for Midlands Gives and then coming back down after Midlands Gives. And then I go along until I get to the annual appeal in November, December, and then I raise it up again and drop it down again after that's over. So it's really about your holistic communication strategy. And then and you know, just being so in touch with your database and keeping that brand out there.
Yeah, thank you for that. And
Can I
hopefully
say,
that-
let me just say one other thing, Erin, before I forget it. Someone so much smarter than me told me a long time ago that money follows the mission. And if you will communicate your mission, and your mission is about helping improve the lives of other people, people love to support that. Now I'll shut up.
That's good. And we're going to circle back to that in a little bit. So I appreciate you teasing that out. So hopefully there's not a whole lot of you that are scared because you're like, I haven't been communicating with my donors all year. So most of you hopefully have been getting those little touches throughout the year, which is a great recommendation by Scott, and Chio mentioned the same thing. Coletown Bike Collective, do you have anything you want to add around data on how you all might use data to plan out this year's campaign?
Honestly, we're bad about data.
Okay. Lesson learned, right?
I mean, we use data through, like, we look, of course, at all the big donors that we get each year, and we always invite them to our donor parties and stuff like that. So they do get, you know, it is a way of getting to see them in person again, since Midlands Gives has been virtual for the last few years. It's just a good way of them also being able to see the space in person, because a lot of these donors don't ever come to the shop except for when we have a donor party at the shop. So it's a good way of just letting them see where things are going. So we do use the data from it for stuff like that, but we do like a handwritten thank you to everybody that donates, no matter what level they are. So, you know, we want everybody to feel appreciated, because we certainly appreciate their support, and we know not everybody can be a big donor. So the small donors to us are just as important as the big donors. And we want everybody to feel like, you know, we do acknowledge and we respect and thank everybody for what they do.
I really appreciate you saying that, Scott, because there's a couple of things like nuggets in there. And one is that what I've thought through is the fact that everyone's version of a big donor versus a small donor is different. It really depends on what your donors look like. And everyone can look at that on their own and really figure out what to me feels big, what to our organization feels big. And so recognizing that, and you do different strategies depending on sort of that level. And I so appreciate you saying that you thank every single donor. That's still an ongoing thing. And so we really want to make sure our nonprofits take the few minutes just to thank them. It really goes a long way, because they are giving of themselves and they're believing in you and the work you're doing. And so I appreciate you saying that and reiterating that. And so we might, if we have time at the end, we might talk about some creative ways maybe that you guys have done some acknowledgement for donors. Well, while I have you, I think you have done some good job around storytelling. Can you share with us a little bit about how you all sort of tell your story, do some storytelling to be able to share your mission and the work you're doing with the community?
We do a lot of kind of teaser storytelling throughout the year in terms of social media, and then it'll be accompanied usually with a blog post that will be included in an email newsletter, so that there's a little bit of building, but we're not trying to slam everything into every post, because it doesn't have to be everything in every post. A little bit, and that's whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever. We feel like telling a little bit of the story, that way if they see it in a newsletter or if they see it in a blog post, they'll have some familiarity with it, because it'll be something they have seen, and that's what gets them to read a little bit further, look a little bit deeper, and engage a little bit more. And we kind of really want to curate sort of the stories that we tell. We don't want to just say random numbers and stuff like that. We feel like the stories we tell really have to be personal, either for ourselves or our clients, or what it means that we're doing. And fortunately, we have a very active board. And in fact, something back what I mentioned earlier, the adventure outdoor stuff, that was sort of the brainchild of one of our board members. And she really wanted to get more folks that aren't typical cyclists to get outdoors and do stuff. So she's really spearheaded a lot of the grants and funding and reached out to partner groups to make that possible. Because it's important to her, and it's a part of our mission that we really never focused on, because we've been focused so heavily on the transportation side, that, you know, and so she had an amazing story published by Adventure Cyclist .com, I think. It's Adventure Cycling Magazine. That it was a WTF event, so women trans femme overnight trip. And I mean, again, it was something very personal to her and something that she did. So again, she excelled on that storytelling.
Great, thank you. And Rhonda, I know you all do a lot around storytelling, and I've seen some of the things that you've done. How have you used any of that for your posts or for your Midlands Gives profile?
So this actually will be our first year adding some of our testimonial videos to our profile. We haven't done so in the past. One of the things that we were able to do this past year was just be open and transparent about educating our participants on the nonprofit sector. We've seen that has made it easier or lighter for them to be willing to share their story. A lot of our participants, when they think of a nonprofit, they sometimes confuse it with a traditional business. But we just had clear conversations with them of just allowing them to know and understand, like, hey, this is how we're funded. Funders look to see things like this. We don't require you to do anything, but if you can provide a testimonial, it helps us continue to provide our services. And they're usually like, sure. So we were able to get more videos by way of just educating them on how we're funded and what that looks like. And so this year we'll be adding those and sharing those to our actual Midlands Gives page for the first time. And we share them to our social media periodically throughout the year now. Just because, like I said before, we've recognized that people want to be a part of the journey. And as far as our language, I would say for me personally, when I did the fundraising school course, I was really timid about fundraising. Like, I was honest with my coach and was like, hey, I'm not really a fundraiser. Like, I can't sell you the shirt off of your back. Like, I just don't know how to do it. And she's like, okay, we got to change our mindset. Like, you're not selling, you're getting people to believe what you believe. And just being coached to change my thought process around that allowed me to take it back to our team and give them the same inspiration, the same empowerment. Like, hey, we're not selling, we're not getting them to buy into anything. Like, we're just getting them to believe in the same thing that we believe in. And so just changing that language and understanding as well, like, who's the target audience that believes in what we believe in, right? So we had to do some digging in our data and look at, okay, what gender, what age group, like who believes, who gives already. And now we know to tailor our story to fit those people who already give.
Very nice. I appreciate that. Very good.
You're welcome.
Scott, I know that you guys have done a lot around storytelling. You kind of mentioned that briefly in your intro. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you're using storytelling for your Midlands Gives work? Vaughn?
Yeah. So we have some stories, some little, almost like little one paragraph stories on our Midlands Gives profile. And but again, client stories are hard to come by. So what we do is focus on stories about how we serve individuals, whether it's through our clothing bank or whether it's through our little emergency food pantry, or whether it's through financial empowerment coaching. To just try to focus on all of those different services and let the stories be about how we serve people, and maybe a sentence or two about a specific client success story.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Shia, did you have anything you wanted to add before we moved on?
Yeah, I think that for us, it's also a topic that it's difficult in terms of people wanting to share, just because, you know, domestic violence, sexual assault, even disclosing it is with us as an advocate is a hard thing already. So to film that, it's difficult. However, it does come with education, but it's also coming with, instead of focusing on the situation or trauma, we have shifted probably the last 3 years to focus on the impact of the services. So when we talk about storytelling, we don't talk about, you know, this really awful thing happened and I'm going to tell you about it. It's more around, yeah, this thing happened. However, I went to the hive and then this is the story that I'm telling. So it's around the impact that the organization has, because then we can paint a picture for donors to understand where their money is going. So we do have testimonials in our website, in our social media, and in our Midlands Gives page too. And we do have a lot of survivors that, even because that has been a thing that we have been doing, they see it and they have even come to us and been like, you know what, after they're completed the services, because normally that's what happens. We don't ask them when they're doing the services, because that's just not okay. But after they complete the services, they come to us and be like, I want to share the impact that the hive had for me. And so those also become like the biggest supporters and donors of the organization too, program participants. So that's also around impact stories. So focusing on the impact has been really beneficial for us.
That's very helpful. Thank you for that, because data does show that people give to hopeful things as opposed to sad things. I know we don't think that when we see some of the sad dog stories, but people want to give to the positive impact, right? And a lot of folks who are in the webinar today do have some difficult subjects that they're addressing. Their missions are dealing with a lot of traumatic issues. And so being able to focus on your impact and how you're changing things and improving lives is a great strategy. So thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. So we're going to get some of the little tactics here. We'd love to know a little bit about what social media platforms you all are using, where you're getting the most bang for your buck. We have some, you know, of our nonprofits who are trying to still figure out what's the best platform for them. You can tell a little bit about sort of your social media strategy and what platforms you're getting good results from. We'll go ahead and start with you, Chia.
Yeah, so for us is mainly Facebook and Instagram. So Instagram definitely is the biggest for us because of the demographics that probably go to see our information. Not probably, because of the demographics that go to see our information. However, we do use Facebook too, like the Meta business, like the Meta is what we use. We do have LinkedIn, but that's not something that we use for Midlands Gives. We do post maybe 1 or 2 times that day, but it's not something that, you know, brings donations. It's more around like professional topics. So for us, it's been Facebook and Instagram, and obviously, you know, we use the platform Network for Good. So we utilize the emails and the text. The text has been, it's something that even when Rhonda was saying it, I'm like, yeah, that's when we started doing text, that was really beneficial for us too, because you know, they just have it on their phone, and instead of going to your app of email and then like looking at all the emails you have, just have it as a text. So we use it for sharing our message, of course, and we do also like a whole marketing plan where it's a timeline and we schedule text and we do all that stuff, right? But yeah, texting, email marketing, and Instagram and Facebook.
Great, thank you. Rhonda, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
There we go. I was like, why my phone not working right? But yes, we recently transitioned to Network for Good this year. And so we've started like sending out texts and just testing it so that when we get closer to Midlands Gives, it's not that culture shock. So we're super excited about having the automated way to send it this year. But we utilize Facebook and Instagram. And actually, our Facebook brings in more donations over Instagram. I don't know if, well, I've been told before, like in like a business training I took before, that people give to people. And so when you build a personal relationship and a personal connection with people, it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to support it because they support who you are. And we found that with myself and our board members and our volunteers, because of the personal connections they've built in the community, their social media followers or Facebook friends, they give towards whatever they're supporting and giving to. And so that's something that we notice, and we do allow ambassadors to join us for Midlands Give. So those are usually people who come to our events throughout the year, who are asking for ways to volunteer, who are also giving to our organization, and we give them a kind of like we don't kind of we give them a breakdown of language to say, when to post, how to share it, how to engage, and they have the option to create a peer-to-peer fundraising page if they would like to, and that works as well. And I also say, within our internal board and myself, we make it a competition. Um, we're like, okay, whoever can reach their goal first, like it's a thing. Like it is a real thing in our group chat. Like we nobody for some reason nobody wants to lose. And so that just pushes and encourages us to continue to send it out. And I always love to walk away with the trophy. But they come close. They come very, very close. And I know one day I may have to lose. But I say that to say, like, we make it a friendly competition amongst our team to meet and or exceed our goals as well.
All right, so I'm going to keep you on, Rhonda, so don't go on mute just yet, because you got me right to the next topic. We have 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure we hit on both board engagement and on securing matches. So let's talk about board engagement. You have a very engaged board.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just mentioned that you guys set up a sort of competition. So tell me about engaging the board, how you're doing that, and then we'll go to the rest of folks, because I think they have good board engagement as well.
So the first thing I would say is educating. So all of our board members, they're new to philanthropy as well, right? So this is new to them, learning about Midlands Gives and what that looks like, educating. So we set up Zoom calls where we strictly just talk about Midlands Gives, what it is, what will be our goal. We look at last year's and we go from there. And then we set individual goals based off of, if it was just us and we needed to reach this goal, then we divide it amongst all of us and then we go from there. We have amazing talent within our board. And so collectively, we come up with our plan, we make our graphics, we set up a day to record our videos. We really work together to ensure that we can push out what we're doing internally to ambassadors and, you know, our volunteers. And so we're just open and transparent, and then just educating them and making sure that they have all the information as well. And so that usually pushes it.
Our goal, not girl get up goal, right? Like our collective, this is the word. Good job. Great. Thank you. Coletown Bike Collective, how are you guys engaging your board during Midlands Give?
Well, about 2 years ago, we were fortunate that one of the board members sort of set up a calendar of the launch system and what days what was going to happen. And during that, we also asked all of our board members to do video testimonials that we could pre-record, but then we also had live feeds that we had the day of that each board member was going to do. And that way we already had some stuff kind of in the bag for leading up to it. But then during the day, whenever we hit a certain goal or a certain, you know, a benchmark, whatever, and especially during our power hour, board members would go live from different areas so that it wasn't just the same person over and over again. And again, we've been really fortunate over the years to have just an amazing board, a really engaged board, and so that's incredibly helpful. But yeah, doing the pre-recorded stuff where they literally can just talk about what it means to them, and there's no script for that. We don't ask them, you know, we want you to focus on this point, because that's not what we want. We want the board member to tell us what it is that we do that makes them, you know, really excited about being on the board. Because that's honestly, that's what tells the best story, is if they think about what it means to them, not something that we tell them we want to focus on this. So again, we've been really lucky to have an amazing board that wants to participate and gets excited about participating and doing it. And those two stages are really pretty easy in terms of, a pre-recorded thing, and then of course the day of.
Great, thank you. That's great. And it's not luck, Scott. You guys, I'm sure all of y'all do a very intentional effort to cultivate your board members as well. And so you bring them along. So good job on that. Scott, Vaughn, and the cooperative ministry, how are you guys engaging your board, or are you engaging your board during Midlands Gives?
Yes, first of all, we have a really hardworking board of directors, and our board of directors over the last 5 or 6 years has taken up the match. And so the board raises the match, and I'm going to give credit to Central Carolina for that, because in 2018 I had never participated in Midlands Gives, and I went to the very first training, and someone said the best strategy is to get your board involved in raising the match. And so I came back and we started doing that, and our board has responded magnificently. And so in addition to raising the match, our board also, we do the, I will write text messages and sample emails for them to send out on Midlands Gives Day. And they overwhelmingly put aside part of their day to participate in that. So I can't brag on our board enough. And it has tremendously helped our organization, our participation in Midlands Gives, by having them involved with us.
Wonderful. I love those nuggets. Using your board to front the match, as well as free doing all of your, like, here's some posts. You can just lift it and put it straight into your social media feed. Great. Rhonda, we already talked about how great your board's been doing, so thank you for that. My last question, I know, Chio, you had mentioned it before, and I want to be respectful of time. If you could give us your 2 minutes on how in the world you guys are raising such big matches for the day. You said you already got a lot of it secured before April 1, so tell us briefly how you're doing that.
Yeah, of course. So it is, again, it's a year-long effort. It doesn't come just on, March or April. But we do our data, and we concentrate very intentional around what's going to be the ask. So we have a a solicitation packet where is the one that we, share with people, which is a PDF, and it has like a really pretty, like, graphic design or whatever. But Ashley and I, which Ashley is the CEO and founder of the organization, Ashley and I strategized, like I said, even before, since February, we have been having meetings, right? And we look at our donors and we look at our matrix, which that has been really helpful for us. The fundraising matrix. I don't know if all nonprofits use them, but and that's something that actually we learned because of fundraising coach in Never for Good. But we segment how many specific the specific amount that we need, and also the quantity that we need. So for instance, we are going to need 50 people to give us $100. We're going to need 100 people to give us whatever, right? And so the more it goes up in terms of money, the less the quantity that we need. And so once we have that matrix completed, we look at our data and our donors in the past, and we see who are our major donors. For us, major donors are for $500 or more. And so we look at that data and we see, okay, like they give last year. So that for us is an active donor. If they give last in 2022 and didn't give in 2023, that's a lapsed donor, right? So we use the language differently in terms of contacting them. But it's around data, it's around strategizing the matrix, and it has been successful for us. But then again, like I said, it's a year-long thing where we are communicating with them. We send them, little things here and there. It's a whole donor stewardship through the year to be able to sit and be like, this person, this person, this person. So it's like a personable kind of thing where the ask comes from the CEO, and just you know, has been really successful for us in that way. Just the strategizing, really, just yeah.
Right, and it's a specific ask of specific people to be able to do this match. Great,
Correct.
thank you.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, thank you all. I learned a whole lot, and we clearly picked the right 4 organizations. Y'all had a lot to share, and I hope that everyone else on the webinar felt the same way. Chantrell has a couple brief announcements, and then we'll say our final goodbye. Chantrell, are you there?
Yes. So I did just want everyone to know we will be sending out the recording link to everyone here shortly after the training, either end of today or early next week. To watch all the previous trainings that we had and to register for our upcoming training. Our next training will be April 2nd at 11 a.m. for fundraising pages. So we will be talking with Matthew Allen. He was formerly the Senior Director of North Texas Giving Day, which is the largest giving day in the country. He'll be going over how to leverage your board and build fundraising pages around that. So we encourage you guys to sign up for that training. I think that training will be great since everyone here talked about leveraging their board and getting their board involved, and Matthew Allen is going to talk about that.
Awesome.
And then we'll do one final brief, what's new in 2024. We'll post that quick little video for everyone to see because we have a couple of new things that we want to share with you along the way. So again, I really want to thank all of our panelists. You guys were wonderful. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody spending some time with us this morning. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to us, myself or Chantrell, Midlands Gives at yourfoundation.org. We're happy to chat, and best of luck this year on your Midlands Gives campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.